Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Shauna. She is a women's embodiment mentor and yoga teacher. Welcome, Shauna. I'm so happy to have you here with us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So if you're listening to the podcast or you're new to the podcast, make sure you subscribe. You go check out Shauna's links below. And if you're watching this over on YouTube, make sure you also check out all of her links below in the description box. And before we get in, I always like to tell people to do something first. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do that and leave us a review so we can keep interviewing these amazing guests. So with that being said, let's get into Shauna and her story. So Shauna, again, welcome to the podcast, and tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of like a little bit about your story and how you help people.
Oh, wow. That's big. We just dive right in, right? Okay. Yeah, so I guess I was born and raised in the States, hence the American accent, but it's sort of evolved over the years, I guess, my accent. But I was born and raised in the States in Washington State, actually. And I grew up in an environment that I would call quite traumatic. So I had a lot of big traumatic moments happen in my life. I always had a desire to be with people and to spend time with people and understand people. And I spent a lot of my life asking the question, why? So sometimes that was around the trauma that I experienced in my life, like, why is this happening? And why does this person do this? And so that sort of drove me. And to be honest, I played soccer, and that was a bit of my saving grace in a lot of ways. I also actually got involved in the church, and in many ways, that was my saving grace in the beginning. So those two things sort of kept me, I would say, off the streets is a good way to put it, and healthy despite everything that was going on. And then when I turned 25, well, I graduated with a degree. I went to college and I graduated with a degree in social work. So I studied social work and I went into the field of social work. It was not the right field for me because it just exacerbated all the trauma I already had that I maybe hadn't dealt with. And I thought I wanted to help the people, but it just made me realize how much unresolved stuff that was going on for me. And I guess I didn't know that when I was doing that. I thought I was there to help people, but then I just realized, oh wow, I'm just so much is coming up for me. I didn't really know how to deal with that. So at 25, I was sitting on the floor of the bathroom, crying my eyes out. I had worked at a group home for girls, and I lived with the girls 4 days a week, and then I would go home 3 days a week. So 6 girls lived in this house, and they were between the ages of 12 to 18. And I'm still young. I'm only 25, and they were all, they had all come off the streets. They were in, rehab, and they lived in this house. And so it was a quite a intense environment. And I remember there's this moment that I was in the office, and a girl threw some scissors at my head, and she just missed my head. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. Like, I cannot do, like, I don't feel safe. I am by myself. I'm with these girls who have the potential for some serious harm. And it was that moment that I then was like, something's got to change. So I went to the meeting that we had. We would have case meetings where we'd meet with all the case managers, and we'd come up with plans. And I said, look, I want her out of the house. If those scissors would have hit me in the face, we don't know what would have happened. And they essentially looked at me and said no. And so I went into the bathroom, and I was crying on the floor of the bathroom, and I said, I'm gonna go to Australia and then I'm gonna meet the man of my dreams and I'm never gonna come back. And that's exactly what I did. 2 weeks later, I got on a plane. I went to Australia. I met my husband on the streets of Byron Bay on New Year's Eve. And, here we go, 17 years later, here I am, with two children. So that was the start of my journey. And then when I moved here to Australia, I started as a waitress. I just did something really simple. I was making coffees on the beachfront, and I started practicing yoga, and it started to transform my life. I actually hated yoga when I first started it. I really didn't like it. I didn't like the teachers. I didn't like the smell in the room. I didn't like the heat. I just didn't like it, but I kept coming back. So there was something about it that was doing something inside of me that was starting to really shift things. Um, and so, yeah, I started practicing yoga, and then all of a sudden it was like, baby, I'll do the teacher training. And I did the teacher training. And then on the back of the teacher training, it was like, oh, hey, do you want to teach? And I was like, I don't, yeah. And then I was thinking, oh, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it was back in the days when, we're talking, many years, almost 17 years ago when it wasn't a big thing. Yoga wasn't a big thing. It's not like every other person. So I actually got in this time where they were really able to develop me as a teacher. And that was quite a beautiful process. And then in that process of yoga that started the journey for me, I did many different modalities. I practiced a lot. I worked with a lady who was a business coach. She did a lot of EFT with me, which is emotional freedom technique. And then I went in and trained in that, and specifically around something called matrix re-imprinting, which has to do a lot with trauma. So that unlocked a lot for me. And then I studied many different modalities. So NLP, the way the mind works, went into kinesthetics, the body. I've worked a lot with plant medicine. I've worked now in the psychic realm, and now I've just become a gene keys guide, even though I've been studying it for about 5 years. So that's my story condensed as sort of short as I can make it. We could kind of go anywhere with it, but that's the quickest way I know how to say where I am right now. And now I want to, using all the tools and that I've learned to be in my body. Like I went from very mental, like a real swirling why and how and overthinking, into just this I would say woman who knows how to be in my body and knows how to love my life. And it wasn't always that way. So I really believe that anyone can come from any situation or any background, and they can create a life they love. And so that's what I'm here to help women, like in their next chapter of their lives. If they feel like they're sort of stuck somewhere, they're repeating the same patterns, and they want to move into a new chapter. They want to embrace their life. They want to have more fun. They want to have a career that they love, or they want to enjoy motherhood or whatever it is. Then that's, I'm here to hold your hand, while you find your way, So that's the best I can
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being very vulnerable and sharing that. There is a question that popped in my head when you were telling me that were you ever a professional soccer player?
Um, so professional, no, I trained for the Olympics. So I trained for as a goalkeeper for the Olympics. So what happened is I was from a young age, I was in a program called Olympic Developmental
Okay.
program. And so I played at a very high level, and I trained to be in the Olympics. It got to a point where it was going to be me, or it was going to be Hope Solo, and she was the goalkeeper for the next 17 years for the U.S. national team. So she was very successful. I knew I was never going to beat her. I just knew I was never going to be that good. And so at that point, I pulled out, but I got paid to play in college, and I was successful in my soccer career. So yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know, and it's because I'm looking at your face, and when you said that, I was like, oh my God. I feel like, because I was big into soccer when I was younger,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
even said that you might have been my like idol, because then
Oh.
when you said that, I remembered something in my childhood of like, I got it. I looked at your last name and I was like, oh my God, did she like, I don't know if have you ever came to Delaware or did things in Delaware or no?
Okay, so it's funny because I think I spent some time in Delaware, but that was when I did AmeriCorps. And AmeriCorps is like the government, the government run program where you spend a year of your life and you travel. And I was based in DC, and I traveled around, and I think we spent a stint in Delaware doing like a Habitat for Humanity kind of thing. So that's the time I spent around, but I didn't necessarily play soccer in Delaware.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's something I feel like I physically met you before. Like it was so
Ah,
weird when you were telling me.
okay,
I was
okay.
like, I have to ask her about this. She's probably gonna think I'm weird, but I have to ask
Ah,
her about soccer because you
okay.
just
Yeah.
briefly said it, and I was like, that's I need to ask her that. So that's
Okay.
so
Okay. Like it.
it's so crazy. But
Love that.
anyway, I feel like I had to ask you that question. And then when you said about women, a lot of women like you didn't say this word for word, but being stuck in our heads. And maybe
Hmm.
this could be like over like loop. This could be like looping, or they call it looping or overthinking.
Hmm.
So like in your experience, what are maybe some deep fears or beliefs that maybe fuel this cycle, I guess that is, and how doing the embodiment work that you do and help women, how do you help people free from this?
Mm. I mean, we could break down the actual belief system, but I think at the fundamental level, there's not a trust for life. There's this inability to trust that life is organically and perfectly unfolding as it's meant to, even if it doesn't look or feel the way that you think that it should look. And so that's what I truly feel is that if we can surrender to the process of life, and if we can trust that life is always that it always has our back, that it's working for us, that even if it feels sticky or if it feels icky, it's moving in a direction where it's evolving our soul. And we can trust that. We can trust those moments. Then we take our hands off the wheel. That doesn't mean that we don't move forward in life and we don't keep challenging ourselves and keep going after the things that we want. But underneath it all, we trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it's meant to, that there aren't any mistakes happening, that mistakes don't actually exist. That's an illusion. Then, if there's that fundamental trust in the process of life, I feel like all the belief systems start to work themselves out. And when you trust life, you trust yourself. I think when you know that life is working out for you, then you can trust that whatever you're doing, you're not moving in the wrong direction. It's always moving you in a direction that's evolving you. So you stop second guessing yourself. You stop overthinking because you just know that you're taking the step that you feel called to move in. You're going in a direction you feel called to move in. I actually literally heard this the other day by Bob Proctor. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's like old school, right? And
Yeah.
he was saying you always connect the dots looking back. You can never connect the dots looking forward. So it's like we're if we just keep moving in the direction that we feel called to move, when we look back, we're gonna go, oh, that happened, that happened, that happened, that happened. I get it now, but we don't do that moving forward. We don't trust that all the steps are leading us and we're going to look back and go, that all makes perfect sense. So I guess with the work that I do with women, maybe on a deeper level, it's learning how to trust life so that they can trust themselves and they can do whatever feels good. Like not what they feel they should do or what society says you should do. It's what feels good for you? What lights you up? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do?
Yeah. And I love that you said that too, because that brought another idea in my head, or question, I should say, because I was scrolling on TikTok like one does during the day. And there was this lady that did this video, and she said, I don't know if you're like me, but I used to love tarot, which I still love tarot and pulling cards all the time and doing readings and stuff. And I stopped and I was like, what is she's going to say? Because I immediately I was thinking, me too. And then I was like, but I haven't done that a lot. And like, I'm talking, my husband like still makes fun of me of, why do you have so many tarot cards? And like, you're obsessed with them and stuff. But I feel like when I was in that section of my life, that I would not trust myself so much that I would have to ask my pendulum, or I'd have to ask my cards, or whatever they said I would do. And it's like, she brought up a good question, and it actually kind of resonates with what you just said about trusting life, and then you can trust yourself. I feel like I can just trust what my intuition is telling me, and I don't need to go ask the tarot. Like, granted, yes, it's a great tool, but I feel like a lot of people, or me, heavily relied on it, like a codependent relationship of like, if it tells me this or that. I mean, like, tarot is not like that. It's just supposed to show you what it's going to look like if you decide to go that way. But I
Mm,
already intuitively knew what was going to happen, you know? So I love that you said that, because that's just another confirmation, I feel like, for me, and probably anybody that's listening, that if trust life, and you trust life so much that you can then trust yourself, or vice versa. If you trust yourself,
mm,
you are going to just surrender. I feel like that's huge. And it's huge now, because it's like,
mm,
how do you do that when life is so crazy? Right.
mm, mm.
It's
Yeah.
a big question. If I like asked you, like, how do you do that when life gets crazy? Like, do
Mm,
you have simple like exercises or tools? Um,
mm,
when you need to trust that, your self trust, especially when you're in an emotional state. Like, how do you do that?
mm. Yeah, I mean, great question. Again, I actually have a little note on my phone, and it has like all the tools that I have in my tool book. It's like, this bag of all the things that I found helpful. And sometimes when I get stuck, I just look at that list, and I just again feel into that, and I go, what one would actually benefit me most or would help me? But there's two things that have made significant, probably look, there's so many things that I say two or three, and then I'm like, oh, there's a lot that's made a difference. But I would say that right now, I can only speak to what's relevant to me right now. And the first thing is, I've received really clear messages recently to just slow down, just
Mhm.
slow down. So it's very hard to trust life and to trust myself when I'm moving at a fast pace, when I'm telling my kids, get in the car, do this, grab this, go, the busyness is actually stimulating the nervous system, and the nervous system cannot relax. It cannot trust this. It can't surrender because there's too much doing. There's too much busyness. So for me, I've got to stop doing, and I've just got to like be. And so sometimes that looks like waking up in the morning and going, I know what I should get done. I know what needs to get done. Doesn't need to get done today, right now. No. What do I want to do? I want to go for a surf. Well, I'm going for a surf then, because the self-care is actually teaching me to trust the process of life and to relax and to take my hands off the wheel. And then all of a sudden, like bursts of energy come, like bursts of like, and then I can like jam out all the work in about an hour, right?
Right.
Just like that, versus sitting here going, oh, I got to get this done, and doing the spinning. So that's probably the first thing, is just slowing down, just taking a break, stop the doing, and really do the self-care, the nurturing, the slowing down. And that's a practice for a lot of people. A lot of people cannot do that because they just go, but what if shit falls apart? And it's like, well, then let shit fall apart, and trust the process.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first thing. I'm also a big writer. I do a lot of writing, and writing is a great way for me to be able to reflect my mind back to me, and also give me a bit more of a is it an objective view or a subjective view? It just pulls me out of my own head, and it kind of gives me perspective, and it's like a co-regulation for my nervous system. It's just taking all the stuff that's busy and just dumping it out. But to answer your question, it always comes back to some level of self-care, is how I learned to trust. It's actually the opposite than I feel like most people think, because I feel like most people go, oh my God, I'm stressed out. I don't trust life. And then they try and do more. They try and pick up a new, oh, I'm going to start meditating. And then they're like, when is the meditation over? When is the meditation over? And they're like, oh, I've got to go do yoga. And then they're like, their body doesn't want to move and they're forcing themselves into these postures. And I'm like, you should just lay on your back and for 60 minutes and breathe. And you still are going to get more benefit than if you would moving your body at all. So it's just the opposite than I feel like what most people go to. But that for me has been probably my biggest healing is slowing down. Less is more, rest more, slow down.
Yeah. And like when I'm listening to you say that, I'm thinking, oh, like the masculine and feminine, like even like,
Mm,
the masculine, or if it's like, partners in a relationship, there's like, I see it in my husband so much that it's like he gets stressed out and then he thinks he has to do more. And I'm
mm,
I'm just sitting here like, I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do that. Like, and I just,
mm,
very gently say, you're not doing it right. Try to do it this way. I'm a projector. He's
mm.
a projector in human design. So unsolicited advice when he's not asking for it does not
Okay.
get taken well
Hmm.
by either
Yes.
parties. But
Yes.
I let him just, he has to figure it out. Like I was
Mm,
that person in the beginning of our relationship that I wanted him to be a certain way to kind of fit the mold, like to not trigger me and not, the stuff that, you do when you get out of a unhealthy relationship. I mean, like I was
mm,
in a healthy relationship with myself for 2 years before that, but I didn't know
mm,
how to be healthy in a partnership, in a healthy partnership. So it was like
mm,
some learning, like, oh God, I got to get this way. I got to go over here. I'm going to start running now, like all that stuff. And he said this all the time. Why don't you just let me be who I am? You can't save me.
mm,
And it was that mentality, that I lived my whole life, which I think a lot of people can resonate with. And then I just kind of gave him advice where I would say, hey, can I suggest something? And most of the times he doesn't want to hear it. And that's okay.
mm.
Months later or a year later, he's now like, oh, and then in my head, I'm like, I told you this a year ago. Like, like you're just catching on, but
Mm, mm,
he's on his own path. He's on his own path. He has to figure stuff out himself,
mm,
and I feel like that is the whole, he's very good at being feminine in his feminine energy, just being. He has a
mm,
wounded masculine side. So I'm very masculine. I
mm,
have to be the opposite. I need to be more in my feminine. And
mm,
in the beginning of our relationship, it was very unbalanced because I was constantly doing stuff when I didn't want to constantly do things. I wanted to be more feminine, like in the role of the relationship, and
mm.
it just wasn't balanced. And I feel like if I don't even know why I'm saying this, but it must need to be said that
Yeah,
people
yeah.
in relationships that when you're saying you need to stop doing and just be, I feel like that actually can probably save a lot of relationships, because I feel like a lot of women feel like they have to keep doing things or it will fall apart. And here's my
Mm,
thing: in a relationship, we're either going to vibrate together or you're going to vibrate out, and that's all that is. It's not good or bad,
mm,
and I feel like that's the same thing with when you look at yourself, too, like
mm,
just the way that you just described of like slowing down. A lot of
mm,
people don't know how to slow down, and I feel like again it's a control factor. It probably comes from trauma. It's definitely a
mhm,
trauma response. I
mhm,
used to be
mhm,
a control freak, and now I say I'm a recovering control freak, but I can feel when it starts to come back up. I'm like, I can
mhm,
just control myself. That's all I can do.
mhm.
And my daughter,
Yep,
but I can't
yeah,
control anybody else, and I don't know what's
yeah.
happening, but
Mm,
the
mm.
clip season, is really good for that, right? That we just
Yeah,
got
yeah.
her.
It just with what you were saying, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It just, it just, it made me think that we don't slow down if we don't trust ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's like this lack of trust and in that in ourselves, like because it's when you slow down, you just have to be with yourself. And I think so many people don't like being with themselves. They don't actually want to be with themselves. They're scared shitless to actually know what would happen if they just stopped doing and they had to just be with themselves. But
Mhm.
I feel like that's where the gold is, because like the thing we're most afraid of is often the thing that gives us the most freedom, and that's where it lies. But it's a process. It takes time to learn that, to learn to slow down. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, and you can tell me your like human design and how you incorporate that with Gene Keys. But for me,
Mm,
human design really is like ultimately the thing that kind of brought me to how I can trust myself. Because I'm like, well, how am I
mm,
supposed to do this? You know, like I don't
mm,
even I can't from a very young age at 5 years old when I was supposed to trust my my parents and my brother. And it's like, I that was broken by sexual trauma and stuff. So it's like, how do I go back to this belief of like everybody's going to hurt me, everybody leaves, so like how do I kind of bring up that, and then I realized in my human design it was like decoded. It's like, oh, so I'm doing this right, and this is
mm,
how it's supposed to feel. And if, obviously that comes with boundaries and it comes with a lot of
mm,
trauma healing and all that stuff,
mm.
but I realized through my own human design, that's how I could start. It's like a self-awareness tool and like a self-trust tool. I feel like that's how
Absolutely.
what is your human design? And now you're a Gene Key guide, which I'm excited to talk about.
Well, to be honest, I don't know a lot about human design. I
Okay.
know
You good.
way more.
Okay.
Yeah, I know way more about the gene keys. I recently had a human design reading. I had one many years ago as well, but I don't think I was in a space to be able to really receive it or really understand what was being presented. But I'm a 5-1 generator,
Okay.
and yeah, and that's pretty like I with gene keys, it's very the numbers are similar, right? Like a 5-1 or a 3-5 or whatever it is, they're the same numbers. So I think your understanding of human design would probably be just mine's just going to look slightly different, but we both kind of understand the same thing because,
Right.
Richard Rudd, who designed the Gene Keys, studied under Ra, and he just sat at the back of his classroom year after year after year, taking the same course. And he never even took one note, never even took one note. He just absorbed, all the information. So yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with what you're saying in terms of it deepening my relationship with myself. Because the Gene Keys works a lot with shadow. That was beautiful and confronting. To see my shadows. And initially, and I think that's my tendency, it's to look at. I'm practical. I'm pretty practical, and I look at, okay, what's the shadow, and how is this sort of holding me back? And I think I've moved a little bit out of the shadows now and more towards what are my gifts and how am I embodying my gifts and being more of my gifts rather than focusing so much on the shadow. And when I do see the shadows, allowing myself to slow down because I know that something's happening that needs a bit of percolation. So, for example, one of my shadows in a sphere, and this is a sphere called your evolution sphere, which means that you'll encounter this same challenge over and over and over again until you accept it, right? Is entropy, and entropy is deep depression. Deep depression. So I will have periods of deep depression that come up, and the gift of that is freshness because there's this freshness, and then the acidic state, which is like that highest state, is beauty. So the freshness that comes from those deep periods of going inward is actually what gives me my greatest gifts, which is the ability to see things in a completely different way and in a bright way. But going into that entropy is tough, but now I know it. I know what's happening. I can see it and I can go, oh, here we go. And so now it's kind of like I do this one. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And it's like there's a sense of humor almost with it, like, okay, we're gonna go deep. I'm going offline. Mom, mom's out of the picture. Probably best just to let me go into, I'm gonna go deep and sometimes it's just a couple hours. Sometimes, it's a couple days, and sometimes it's 3 weeks. I never really know. But I just go, I get now when I'm in it, I go, okay, something big is coming. Like there's something that's coming, and this is the process of that coming. So rather than having it be like, oh, this is the trauma, like, oh, I'm so, this I'm triggered, like, and going into these whole stories around it, it becomes less about the stories and it becomes more about, okay, something's bubbling that's ready to come up, but obviously I've got to move the energy through my body. Does what I'm saying make sense? Am I even answering your question?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Okay.
I've actually I love the way that you talk about the Gene Keys. I have been obsessed with human design probably for like 7 years, but last maybe even year or maybe a year and a half, I started to really look at the Gene Keys because human design is like human design. Like I feel like after the arrows, it's like what's next? Like what's you know
Yeah.
and then somebody said something about, well, what is your life purpose? And I was like, you mean my incarnation cross or like in my Gene Keys? And then so I was like, I made the map like on the what is it, genekey.com or something like that, Richard's website. And
Mhm.
then I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, wait a second.
Mhm.
And then I'm
Mhm.
like looking at the numbers and I'm like, but these are like the same as the gates. And I was like, wait a second. And then I'm like, oh my God, so this is like a deeper. So then I was like,
Mhm.
oh God, here we go down this rabbit hole. But the way
Mhm.
that you are just talking about it surface level, like somebody that's listening to this episode is going to be like, oh my God, I can understand it in a nutshell of like what this is.
Mhm.
I was thinking shadow was like the surface level part and then it's like the two parts above. But it's like you could easily just look at your chart, I feel like, or work with you and be able to see it so much deeper than it would take you 7 years or whatever they say to decondition stuff. I feel like Gene Keys, you can get through it quicker, is what I've noticed
Mhm.
through what I've
Mhm.
studied. I mean, I could be completely wrong. I'm like, well, damn, I should have done Gene Keys. Like, why did, why
Mhm.
did I go down the
Mhm.
path of,
Mhm.
a lot
Yeah.
of people do come to me for business in human design. So I can see why I had to figure out or I had to
Mhm.
gotta go through this and I, help people build their businesses from their human design and their message and all that stuff. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily feel like and doing trauma healing and all that stuff. But I feel like the Gene Keys is like a deeper level to all of that, to understand the shadow. Okay, this is the shadow. Okay, so how do I get out of the shadow versus shadow work and then keep repeating it, the cycle? Like you don't have to keep repeating it. I feel like years of years and years of doing it, human design, I repeated a lot of things. I feel like I didn't need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do feel like the Gene Keys is like it's like human design on steroids.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, but it's also more accessible. Like you say, it's very easy to okay, I say very easy to understand. It's not easy to understand because when you first look at it, you go, what am I even looking at? It's like human design. You go, I'm seeing all these numbers. I don't know what it means. I
Yeah.
guess what I love to do is I love to take a really big concept and make it very practical and very understandable for anyone because I feel like the Gene Keys is so accessible. But what you were saying about, this, like when you keep looking at things over and over again, the Gene Keys has this understanding that okay, I've just got to pause for a minute because like so many things are going through my mind right now. But it's called the gene keys, Gene, because it changes your genetic codes. Okay, so when you take a flashlight and you shine it on the shadow isn't hidden anymore. So you're bringing light into the cells of your body. So you want to know how to be enlightenment? Just keep shining light on the shadows. Now, light on the shadows does not mean overanalyze and pick apart why you have that shadow. And that's where people get stuck in the looping is gentleness, compassion, Inquiry is how you study it. You go, I see the entropy, I go, oh, oh, okay, here we go. Like it's like, here we go. Okay, something fresh is coming. So you see how I immediately I go towards the gift, or one of my shadows is is seriousness. Okay, so when I get really serious and I can see, oh shit, I'm in my seriousness, I get this little voice and I go like this. Oh, Shauna, you're so good at being serious. Oh, you're so good at it. Like, oh my God, you nailed the seriousness. And then it just breaks up the frequency, you see? So
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
I'm just shining light on it. I'm not judging myself for it. I'm not going into the story of why the seriousness is a part of my genetic makeup. I'm not going into the shadows, but I'm just showing the light on it. And they can be, when you first start to look at it, it can be intense because
Right.
it's like you already kind of know these things about you, and then someone's just putting that straight in front of your face, and you're going, now I have to really see myself, and that's scary, and that's hard, and that's frustrating, and you go so much deeper, I guess I'm going to say, like with human design. If we look at the outside of the gene keys, the four keys on the outside, we're looking very, very similar to human design. When you go on the inside, we're looking at your defense pattern in relationships. And that's a whole next level. Like, let's see how you defend yourself when someone triggers you. And then to me, that's the gold, because I just think it can completely transform your life by shining light into the cells that are dark, and that's how it changes your life. Is an organic slow burn, the gene keys are, through inquiry, through compassion, through it's not through force. It's not, you can study the shit out of it, and it's just going to take time to really allow that, because it's an embodied practice, right? And I say I'm a woman's embodiment mentor, because embodiment is through the body, it's not through the mind. So you could understand all of the gene keys. It's not going to change your life until it's in your body and you can feel that in your cells. You can be like, oh, it's different now. It's different. Like something shifted inside of me.
Yeah. And I feel like when you said the embodiment, I think for the first couple years of when I started studying like self study in human design, because I don't ever claim to be a reader or like a certified
Mm,
reader or anything. Mine's more intuitive. And I just always feel like I had this gift of looking at somebody's chart and seeing exactly, listening to their story and seeing exactly where, oh, well, here's your block. You're like, they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I just know.
mm,
But in my
mm,
chart, it's like that direct connection from source that I can see, I can hear it, I can,
mm,
all of that for myself, though. Of course not,
mm,
somebody else
mm.
has to tell me. Another one of my
Yeah.
mentors, but a big part of my gene keys is what I'm noticing is self compassion. So it's very
Mm,
interesting that you said that going through all of this spheres and going through your gene keys is gentleness and self compassion. That's literally what I feel like I have to learn this lifetime because,
mm,
and I'm talking self compassion when you feel like you don't even deserve it, right? Like
mm,
at the times I'm like, oh God, I just totally messed up that or I fucked up that.
mm,
But even
mm,
but giving myself that compassion anyway and not tearing myself down, that type of thing. I feel
mm,
like that for
mm,
me is self care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So talking more about the gene keys, because I'm really intrigued with this and I've just
Mm,
got into it the last year or
yeah.
so, is
Mm,
when you highlight, when you say shadow versus like gifts,
mhm.
when you're doing this with your clients, what are some like aha moments or maybe breakthroughs that you've witnessed that they shifted or saw for themselves?
Mm. Mm. So when I work one-on-one with people, many people don't know about the gene keys. Like I feel like every time I talk about it, people are like, tell me more. There's an excitement and there's a desire for it, but
Yep.
there's not a level of depth, and the depth takes time. And so I don't. I don't build my business on the gene keys at this point.
Okay.
You know, anything
Okay.
anything is available. And I feel like I am moving in that direction more, but I'm not sure what that looks like yet.
Okay.
So I do a reading for someone. I call it a reading. I basically show them their chart and I walk them through some things that I'm noticing so that they can have a deeper understanding about themselves. Now, there is the gene keys and then there's the line numbers that sit next to it. So there you would have like your gene key might be 1.5. Okay, so the 1 is the gene key and the 5 is your number line, right? You would understand this from human design.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's 6 lines, so 1 through 6. And when I work with people and do readings with them or spend time with them, I really get them to understand their numbers. They're not the gene key because the gene key is their journey. I can point out a few things. I'll bring a few things to the surface with that, but I talk about their line numbers because I feel like that's so practical and anyone can take that and they can move with it. So, if, for example, your gene key was 1.3, then the line 3 is an experiencer of life. So, they're here to, if the rain is falling, they're on their hands and knees going, how deep is the water? What direction is the rain coming from? Can I feel it on my face? Like they're
Yeah.
here to experience life. So their life will look very vibrant. A line 3 will look vibrant. They will have a lot of change in their life. They might have 5 careers in their lifetime. They might travel the world. They might not as well. You could be in a committed relationship for 40 years and that's going to have a lot of change in it. So, but
Right.
there's this understanding where, for example, if I said, "Oh, look, you are a line 3," the line 3 goes, everyone always said that it was wrong, that I was always moving on to things. But it was like, no, but you were designed to be that way. You were designed to move and to change because you are here to learn and then to teach other people what you learn. So you're going to have many, many experiences in life that other people don't have. And that's your gift. So do you see what I'm saying? So if
Yeah.
I'm working with someone and then we're going a bit on the deeper level, then at the shadow level, they're going to avoid commitment. Do you see that? So they enjoy
Right.
change, but then
Yeah.
at the shadow level, they're going to be like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then it's like gently I bring it to their attention. So notice how the desire is to run away or to use humor to deflect. And we know that this is one of your gifts is that you have this adaptability, but also you can still be committed and be adaptable. So I work with the Gene Keys more in supporting them in that way so that I feel like they're landing in themselves and they're being true to themselves. So, for example, if you were a line 1, you're a creator, you like to be alone. You're either going to be your biggest critic or you're going to be, your biggest fan, but you do it on your own. It's you who does it. So, if I'm working with you, I realize that I'm going to have to give you a concept and you're going to have to go away and take some time and really allow that to seep in. And then you're going to have to pull yourself out of it. Line 2 is all about relationships. Biggest reflection. I'm going to call a line 2 out. I'm going to say, look at this. Look at what you're doing. And then they're going to be able to receive that quickly. Do you see how? So it's for my understanding so that I can support people exactly as they are, not as I want them to be or not as I think that they should be, but more just built in with what I believe their natural tendencies are. And so I work with the gene keys in that way. And I think that if people can do it for like do their keys for their family, they understand their family so much deeper, right? And you would understand this with human design as well. It's like if my husband and I are both 5 1s, we're the exact same. So our mind is all about fixing. Let's find a solution in our mind, and our bodies are all about isolation. Let me be alone. Let me rejuvenate. We don't ever fight, never, because it's like we're here to solve a problem in our mind. And then he sits on one end of the couch, I sit on the other end. He's studying, Donald Trump, and I'm studying the Gene Keys. You know what I mean? Like,
Like
you
that's
know,
I feel like that is me and my husband. However, he is a
yes.
5'1". I'm a 6'2". So
Okay.
more
Yeah.
of
Yes.
like, but that's him. He's on one side of the bed,
Yeah.
like, watching politics. And I'm like, who gives a shit? Who cares?
Yes.
And here I'm like, do you see this human design thing? What about the astrology? And he's like, I mean, he loves astrology too, but he has
Yeah.
no
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
human design. And he's like, I'll say one thing about human design, about him being a projector or something like that, or how his
Yeah.
digestion needs to be, or how he needs to eat, or whatever, because he wants to lose weight. I'm like, well, you shouldn't be eating at night. And then he's like, so he'll make that a comment. He's like, well, my digestion says I should eat during the day. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, you're not getting it." But it's funny how, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't, I don't want to say we don't fight, but we, being projectors, we're literally, I'm seeing things from a bigger, separate
Mm-hmm.
frequency and
Mm-hmm.
different point of view than him. So it's kind of like, I forget who said this. I think it was on a podcast. This guy literally, I forget, it was on my podcast. And he said, if you look at the floor, it's like you're looking at the nine, he's looking at the six. That's literally what it is. People ask
Mm-hmm.
me, well, how is it to be with a projector? And I was like, well, it's fun, but it's like we're we have two separate, he's always like fixing stuff, always needs a solution. It always has to have a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's me about like, well, let's, work on, like, I'm more of like, I feel like I'm more aligned two than a six. I do need my alone time too. Like, I need to be by myself. And I like to be by myself, like working from home and all of that
Mm-hmm.
is literally fuels me, because it's like I can be by myself. I'm more by myself than he is, so it's like he comes home to me and my daughter being home. He rarely is by himself, so there can be like a conflict there of like him just needing alone,
Mm-hmm.
or going to the gym, or do you need to go and like lock yourself in the room, something like that. So yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, but he is
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely he's definitely to a T a line 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Love that.
um, so a couple more questions before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
So you said previously, and it might have been in the beginning of our conversation, about uncertainty, or like maybe feeling lost, or like maybe did you use the word behind, maybe, like how do you help people like reframe this narrative so that maybe things don't feel like uncertain, maybe things that are uncertain don't feel so uncertain, like what parts of the initiation into that next chapter do you help them with?
Mm. Trust. I teach them how to trust themselves. And when you trust yourselves and when you trust the process of life, the uncertainty stops. You stop second guessing things. Now, trust there's a lot of elements to that. So there's an element of, look, we might have to look at some things that feel sticky or
Mhm.
feel a little bit icky, just because there would have been maybe some times in your life where you learned how not to trust yourself, like basically any parent I've ever known, and I'm not an exclusion to this, is, you're in the grocery store with your with your child, and your child goes, I want this. And you go, no, you can't have it. And then they scream and you go, shh, stop, stop, and then you get taught in that moment, and you would have been 2 or 3 years old, that it's not safe to fully express yourself. So it's not safe to trust what feels real to you, versus just letting the kid throw the fit and just letting them do their thing. And then saying, okay, like, are you complete? Are we done now? Like, can we move on? And
Yeah,
and without denying without denying them, if that makes sense. So it's
yeah,
like we're allowing ourselves to feel it all. We're allowing ourselves to trust that 2-year-old that throws that fit, that's okay. It's all just energy. So
right.
what I do is I like to describe myself. I don't call myself a coach. I call myself a mentor, because I believe that my role is to hold someone's hand while they learn to trust themselves. I'm just there to guide them, to be like, when they're going through life, just kind of like putting
Get back over here.
yeah, 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 just kind of like we're gonna stay within these guide rails, but you're still gonna be the decision maker. You're gonna learn how to trust yourself. I'm going to help you with tools. I'm going to help you deal with the underlying bullshit. But at the end of the day, the way you move into the next chapter of your life is I hold your hand and teach you to trust yourself. And that takes a few months. That's not just it doesn't just happen like that. So that's what I do and that's how I do it is I'm next to women holding their hands while they learn how to do or they learn how to do life.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that I'm very similar too. Like when I was working with a mentor and she's like, helping me with my niche and like trying to niche down and all that crazy crap that I'm like, I want to help everybody, that whole thing.
Mm,
But then realizing if I'm going to help everybody, I help nobody, that, that whole
mm,
thing.
mm,
Um,
mm,
so said something about coach and I'm like, no, I'm just more of a guide. Like I
mm,
am. And then literally when I like, in human design too, like projectors are guides. And I'm like, I'm literally just a guide. That's literally who I am. So for you to say that, I mean, I same thing because I was helping um one of the girls in my membership, like I think a month ago. She's like, I feel like I can she was at one place like an inner child coach, a nanny, a parenting coach, all this stuff. She's like, but I don't feel like talking about that anymore. That's like part
mm,
of my old past. And I'm like, okay, so what are you doing now? So like, what are you talking about now? What are you doing now? And she's like, more like mediumship. I said, well, then talk about that. She's like, but
mm,
I just feel like I can't. I'm like, why? Like, why are you not? You're trying to go from like a past version of yourself and nothing's resonating and nothing like, and I was like, well, just try. I'm like, here's the thing. You don't have to believe anything I have to say.
mm,
Just try
mm,
it. And now she's like, oh God, it makes so much sense. So like speak about current stuff. I'm like,
mm,
yes. Why would you, for me, it never really made any sense to me why people spoke about past things. Like I have a huge story, right? So bits and pieces, I'll share some of that story and people are like, why don't you share that? I'm like, I don't feel like I need to. Like
mm,
that was a past version of myself that I gave gratitude to get now. Now, if it comes up in conversation, I'll be like, oh yeah, that I resonate with that. That happened, blah, blah,
mm,
blah, blah. And people are like, what the hell? Like,
mm,
I feel like
mm,
all of us have sections of our life that
mm,
we could resonate, maybe not go through the same thing, but can resonate with things like that. Right. So
mm. Yeah,
how
I
you kind
agree.
of, I love how you intertwine all of that and with like everything that you do.
Mm.
So now what I want to know is I want to know a lot of things. I've been asking you all these questions, but your crossroads archetype quiz. Can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about that? And I'll also make sure that the listeners or people that are watching this have access to that.
Mm. Well, I mean, this is interesting because archetypes are also gene keys and human design. It's an archetype. It's a style. It's a way that you interact with the world, and it's a naturally a part of you. So, when you take the quiz, it just gives you a little bit more insight in how you move forward. Like, do you move forward with your crossroads like you see it and you are like full, you get on that motorcycle and you just pull the throttle and you're off? Are you in the crossroads where it's like, okay, stillness and quiet and listening and receiving signs is sort of the way that you interact? Is it best for you to partner up with someone like when you're ready to move forward in your life? So I think there's it's giving you a little bit more insight into what your archetype is when you're presented with change because I feel like anyone who's taking that quiz is at an opportunity in their life where they want to make the change, and it can help just give them a little bit more guidance on how they change because I feel like hows are very important to understand as we're moving forward. Like, how do I move forward? What is my method of moving forward? So that's what the quiz is for.
I love that. And the reason when I was asking you that question, I was like, why did I talk about this whole you can't go back? Because it was bringing me to the question of like, I want her to talk about this quiz that she has. Because I'm like,
Mm.
you can't
Okay, I
go
love
back.
it. I love it. We got
Yeah, like,
there.
yeah, I'm like, I was just like circling back, like, well, where did that question come from? So, I mean, usually, I mean, everything's channeled anyway, but I'm like, well, that's just kind of funny how things get brought
Yeah,
into
I
like
love it.
ask. Yeah. So
I
it's
love
like,
it.
I love that it seems like the way that you built this quiz is like you can't go back. So it's like, how do you move forward? And I feel like a lot of hearing you talk and like this whole conversation, it's a huge reminder to myself too that you help people move forward. I mean, like, yes, you kind of want to go back or you want to go to a different way or like a different path, but it's like you can never really go back. And it's like, how do you continue to keep moving forward? I love that.
Absolutely.
I'm taking the test. I'm taking the quiz.
I love it. Well, I feel like you've just literally hit the nail on the head is, we all have stories and we all have things that have happened, whether they're small traumas or whether they're big and whether there were one or two or whether there were, 1,500. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. Like it all happens for a reason and it's moving us forward in the direction. It's just that we use it as understanding and then we let it go. We use everything as a system and then we let the systems go and it's all returning back to love. We're moving from fear to love. So if we go back and focus on the fear and the lack and the things that didn't work, we're just going to create more of that. And I go like life is too short to live a life that you don't absolutely fucking love. Like it's too short to keep going back and analyzing that stuff. So a lot of people don't know how to move forward, and I want to like say that's what I help with because I've had to master it. I'm getting more masterful. It's like we just got to let it all go. We let it all go and we just keep moving forward, with confidence and clarity. So,
Yeah. And I feel like when I hear like letting it go, it's more of like not the toxic, like, oh, just let it go. Like you have to feel
yes.
it. You have to walk through
Yes.
it, like you
Yes.
have to, like feel because I heard that all the time. Over and over again, just let it go, just let it go. And I'm like, I would get so anger would be the first emotion that came out when somebody told me to let it go. And I'm like, no, I'm allowed to feel this. I'll let
Yes.
myself feel it because if not, I'll put
Yes.
myself into like this victim mode.
Yes.
Like I'm a victim here when I'm not because
Mm,
and I think that's very hard for people to understand that like they're not a victim because they chose to
mm,
be in that situation. And as hard as that was for me to look at myself, I did.
mm.
I chose every situation that I was in, every toxic relationship, every not that people deserve abuse, but you chose to stay because you could have chose to leave too. So
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
I love what
Yeah.
you do, I was gonna say thank you for doing what you do because
Oh,
it's
thank
very
you.
needed.
Thank you for interviewing me. I appreciate it. Thanks for
Of
taking the
course.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like when I was like so like I get really I don't want anybody else to think that I don't get excited for their interviews, but I was really excited for whatever reason to interview you because then I was like Jinkies like I mean I would be happy if it was human design, but
Yeah.
there's something that I was like I'm going and I usually learn so much from people that I
Mm,
interview. So thank you for
mm.
sharing all the wisdom. So
You're
before we
welcome.
end and wrap up, where can people find you? And is there like one more nugget of wisdom that you wanted to share with everyone?
Mm. Hmm. Okay. The wisdom. We all need, that's an interesting word. It's really helpful to have people in your life who support you or who mentor you or who coach you or is a therapist. It's helpful to have people in your life who are helping you move forward in life. Choose someone to work with that lives a life that you want, that they have the life that you want. Don't like I say to people, come and work with me if you look at my life and you think I have a good life, like see where I've come from, see where I am, and then know that I've done the work. Do you know what I mean? And if
Yeah.
that doesn't resonate with you, if my life doesn't inspire you, go and find someone who has a life that they love and has overcome the things that you have overcome, like that you want to overcome. Because don't take advice from people that don't have a life that you admire or that you want. Like, we listen to advice from people who don't live lives that are in alignment. We go, oh, I should listen to my mother. Is my mother happy? Well, if she's not happy, don't listen to her. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? If she's happy and if she's wise, absolutely receive that. But with anyone that you're working with, especially if you're having an exchange of energy, which is usually money for time,
Right.
make sure that they live a life that you're like, yeah, I want that, and they know how to do it. And that's probably my biggest piece of advice is make sure they have what you want, and then they can guide you. So that's my advice. Where you can find me, super easy, shaunahawkes.com, really easy, which I'm sure you'll put in the show notes. But
Yeah.
it has sort of everything that I do there, and I feel like it's a good guide just to have a little look. But yeah, I do Gene Keys readings, so one-on-one work with people in their Gene Keys. I do like package sessions as well with the Gene Keys. I do a 3-month mentorship with women, and then I teach yoga, so I run yoga retreats as well. So it's just like what fancies you, what do you want to learn more about, and yeah, let's go from there. Pretty creative and pretty open. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been to a yoga retreat, but I hope to be to one soon. So maybe I'll come to
Mm.
yours.
Oh, that would be amazing. Come all the way
Yeah.
to Australia. You'd love it.
I
May.
know. I'm like in
May in
Australia. If you're
Australia.
gonna do it in Australia, I've always wanted to live some place in Australia. Like I know it
Yeah.
has to be when
Oh,
my daughter is older, but I
yeah.
always said to my husband, I'm like, I would love to live in Australia. And he's like, why the hell would you go live there? I'm like, I don't know. Bali, like these people, I watched your guys' lives and like I'm like, I want that life. I want to
Yeah.
live and meditate on a mountain and just it's just spiritual. Like I'm like, I want to go, that's where I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
you're
if I can
welcome
go there for a
anytime.
very brief time, that's fine too.
You're welcome. You're welcome anytime, Laura.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode with Shauna on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and make sure you go check out all of her links below in the description box. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be below in the show notes. And then share this episode with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you are a current or inspiring to be fempreneur, suffering from the fear of being seen and or feel very triggered when you're building your business, reach out to me at the Mermaid Light about my Rich and Resilient Biz Baddies. This is a collective text message Voxer support group designed to help you heal your triggers and turn imposter syndrome into bad bitch energy. If you resonate with our conversations and insight, don't forget to subscribe, rate the show, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. So please make sure you stay connected with us on social media. Keep manifesting greatness in your life. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.